guys? It's Brant, and I'm back with another The Panel Has Spoken video. I guess that's what we're going to call this. And hopefully, you saw a pretty cool new little intro there that's new just and exclusive just for this series that Rick and I am doing. And first of all, I want to introduce my trusty, ever trusty friend and buddy and fellow Kiss fan, Mr. Rick from It's All For You Demon. How you doing,
Thank you.
sir?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for taking the time to do this and a day early. I had to reschedule it because of some family conflicts and scheduling conflicts. But I appreciate you taking the time to do it a little bit early.
No problem.
And I tell you what, the panel grew substantially from the debut album to Hotter Than Hell. And we had 49 on the panel this time,
That's
Rick.
awesome.
49
That's awesome.
people. And before we get into it, I want to mention those people. This is a long list, so bear with me. And God, I hope I pronounce names correctly. I had some people correct me in comments, and when I get to those names, I'm going to try to slow down a little bit so I get their names right. But here we go. Of course, you've got myself and Mr. It's All For You Demon. Then we have Tim Bream, Dylan Tucker, that Toy Bonnie guy, Rocker L 0270, AJ Zetro, AJ Zetro, 1975, our boy, Tom Dust, Jerry Ivan, Tom Gigliotti. I have a hard time with Italian names. Rocksteady, 1976, R.C. Campbell, Jason Ridenauer, Jeff Wyatt, Luis Fernando, Michael Young, Matt Greenia, Sean McColland, El Dio, Deuce, Zenden Black, Sam Richmond, Jim Smith, Chad Casey, Emily Grazinio, Perpetual Art, Greek Freak, Two Dads Review, George Doley, Keith Nito, Jay Reed, Super Kiss 1200, Demetrios K, Anthem Incorporated, John B. Good, Oddball 6748, Darklight, Jay Reiner, Tony P, Lance Walker, John O, Scotty Sky, Rick R, Jay Lee, Bizbag 68, Tom S, Les Wadley, MD Smith Comics, and Jay Spence Metal. That is our panel for Hotter Than Hell. All 49 of us.
That is impressive.
And the panel has spoken soundly on Hotter Than Hell. And these are some very interesting results. So before we get into the results, what I want to talk about is I had some people not only give their lists, but they also mentioned, they threw in some little things about in their comments. And I want to just read this off. The first thing I noticed is everyone said this was a very difficult album to pick tracks from, the most favorite to least favorite, since they love most of the songs on this. And some people said this is their favorite album out of the three. And some people said this is their favorite Kiss album overall. So it was a passion, a work of passion for some. They mentioned how dark and heavy and Black Sabbath-esque the album was, and how some of them either love or totally hate the production and the sound. I'm one of those who I'm not a fan of the production or the sound. But in a way, it does fit the songs and the packaging of the album, and I will admit over time, it's grown on me. As far as the packaging, many of the panel mentioned their love of the album cover and the art. And John B. Good told a story. Rick, I knew you would like this. I don't know if you've seen his comment. He told the story of how Peter's photo on the back of the album was the first time he saw a woman topless as a child, even with the star over the nipple. And when his mom saw the photo, she cut it out of the back of the cover. And that's magical memories right there, man. I mean, that's just, that is just awesome.
How awesome would it be to find that record in a record store?
Right.
With the picture cut out.
That'd be awesome. I don't know if he still has it or not. He didn't mention if he still had it, but that would be just an awesome thing to find. And my thoughts on Harder Than Hell, the packaging, is I remember Harder Than Hell was an album that I got. I didn't initially get it. I got it after I'd collected some of the post Alive albums. And so I remember when I got it, I remember flipping it over and seeing the back and looking at all the odd photos on the back. And I think it's awesome that, sometimes the internet is a bad thing, but sometimes the internet is a good thing. And seeing all these old photos of Kiss that has finally came to light, photos of them without makeup and photos of the Kiss Hotter Than Hell photo shoot. I
Hmm.
posted one on social media today, talking about that we were going to be filming this, that the panel had spoken, and just awesome photos. Looked like a big orgy, which
Hmm.
basically was. But it's the photos that came from the back, and hearing the stories like Gene with his gauntlet that he spit fire. He actually did that in the alleyway outside where they were doing the photo shoot because he couldn't do it inside because they was afraid he'd catch the place on fire. And that's just cool stories to hear. And to me, it's cool stories. Um, do you have any memories or any thoughts about the packaging of the album?
It was never one of my favorite album covers, but like you said, it is really it's one of the only that and Dress to Kill only two live photo album covers that really have a story to them. You know, besides like the first album cover just being unique. They're the really the only ones that have a story to them and kind of a backstory to how the photo was taken that I can think of offhand. And I mean for that it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I I don't know some of the choices they made. Like we don't want to get too deep into it because that's not what this is about. But it always, even as a kid, I remember thinking why they did all this colorful Japanese art around it. I mean, I knew that they kind of wanted to make it Japanese themed, but then why they put the actual photo of the band in black and white,
Hmm.
all this color, and then the band in black and white. If that, unless that's what they were shooting for. But anyway, getting into we want to talk about our predictions. And I'm going to give my prediction about how I think this would go. This is not my list. As we will reveal where we voted along the way, Rick and myself. But this is my prediction, and Rick has his prediction too. I predicted just from hearing Kiss fans talk over the year, and that's what I based my prediction from. I tried to take out what I like. My prediction was that Parasite is going to be number one. Hotter Than Hell will be number two. Watching You would be number three. Strange Ways will be number four. Going Blind will be number five. Got to Choose will be number six. Let Me Go Rock and Roll will be number seven. Coming Home will be eight. All the Way will be nine. And Mainline will be 10. So, what about you?
Uh, you and I match our last three. I did Hotter Than Hell number one, Parasite number two, Got to Choose three, Let Me Go Rock and Roll four, Strange Ways five, Watching You six, Going Blind seven, Coming Home eight, All the Way nine, Mainline 10.
All right. Awesome. So, with that, we will get into the list. The panel has spoken list. And the panel chose, we'll start at number 10, the least favorite. I don't like to call it the worst, I call it the least favorite. Uh, the panel chose as the number 10 least favorite song Mainline with 150 with a score of 151. No one voted this as their favorite song. The highest was Rick R. He scored it as his second favorite track on the album. 39 of the panel scored it in their last four favorite tracks, with 11 of those scoring it as their least favorite. And that really did it in. There was a lot of ones. And it scored as my next to least favorite. So this was my number 9. It scored as my next to least favorite, and I predicted correctly that I predicted correctly it would be the panel's least favorite, and so did you. So, but yeah, for this one for me, it's the panel's number 10. It's my number 9. What is it for you?
Mainline came in at number 10 for me.
Came in at number 10. Okay. All right. So you actually were the panel. You agreed with the panel. All right. moving on to number 9. And it's funny because the bottom two were kind of packed tightly together, and then there's a few there in the middle, and then they're towards the top. They really separate. Number 9 that the panel chose as the ninth favorite song on the album is "All the Way." All the Way scored a 186, and only one person, Greek Freak, scored it as his favorite track. 30 of the panel picked it as their last 4 of the tracks, with 7 of those scoring it as their least favorite. I was among them, picking it as my number 8, so I picked it as my number 8 favorite, and I correctly predicted it as the panel's next to last favorite. So, and I think that would have mean you did too.
Yeah. And on my list, I chose it as number 7. This is my favorite B side of the record, so it came in at number 7 for me.
Okay. All right. So moving on to number 8. Number 8, and this actually surprised me that it scored this low. I don't know if I predicted it scoring this low, but even if I predicted it scoring this low, it really could. Yeah, I did. I picked it higher, as predicted it higher. But coming in at number 8 by the panel is Going Blind. Going Blind did jump 50 points up from All the Way to pop in at 239 points. 4 people on the panel picked this as their favorite song. AJ Zetro, 1975, Lance Walker, Bizbag 68, and Tom S. all picked this as their favorite song. 24 of the panel picked it as one of their last 4 favorite tracks, and that's more than that's almost half of the panel there. 6 of them picked it as their least favorite. I was not among these because I picked this as my 5th favorite track on the album, and I predicted it to be a little higher at 5. So it kind of surprised me that a song like Going Blind came in at 8.
Yeah, and it's odd that I'm shocked. I predicted it in the bottom 4, so when I made my list, I must have thought people aren't going to like it. I picked it at number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've always loved this song, and I thought a lot of people would like this song, but then when I chose my predictions, I chose it low. So, but it's my number 3.
I heard a lot of people. They said, I think it was Emily said that she likes the unplugged version of this better, and some of the songs that's off this album, she likes the unplugged versions better. Coming Home, Going Blind.
Oh yeah, I can picture that.
So I think, but if you're being true to yourself and the song in the form of this album, I could see how it would have went a little lower. But I always like this song too. I think, like I said, I picked it 5. So this is where it starts to get interesting. So number 7 that the panel picked as their 7th favorite track on the album is Strange Ways. 248 points. Not many points separated it from Going Blind, and not many points separated it from the next song up. So it's kind of there in that big middle. Strange Ways, 248. Only 2 people on the panel. Only 2 people on the panel, Matt Greenia and Les Wadley, picked this as their favorite track. And I hear people all the time, they're like, I love Strange Ways. I love Strange Ways. That's why I thought Strange Ways would chart higher. But only 2 people picked it as their favorite track. And while there were a large number of panelists who picked it as their second and their third favorite, 22 picked it as their last 4 favorites. And I think that pulled the ranking of what I call a cult favorite. It's like a cult. This song has like a cult following. Like you find somebody who likes Black Sabbath, they usually like Strange Ways too. But I was one of those. I picked this as my least favorite song on the album. I thought it would score higher than with the panel. I predicted it would score 4 with the panel in the top 5. But for me personally, this song just grates my nerves. It just drudges on and drudges on. It just grates my nerves.
Yeah, I picked it as 5 with the panel, but I chose it at 9. I'm also not a fan. It is my favorite Ace Frehley guitar solo, though.
I agree too that I think this is one of Ace's better solos, and I've heard a lot of people say it's one of Ace's better solos. Matter of fact, John B. Good, one of the panelists, mentioned that this was his favorite Ace solo on the album. So it's one of those songs that has kind of a cult following, but at least with this panel of 49, it comes in at 7. So just outside of the top 5, and this was a surprise to me, just outside the top 5 at number 6, Hotter Than Hell.
Ooh.
Hotter Than Hell. 257 points. 9 points above Strange Ways. And 4 panelists, Dylan Tucker, that Toy Bonnie guy, Jason Ridenauer, Sam Richmond picked the title track as their favorite track, with a lot more picking it as their second and third favorite track. But again, 22 panelists picking it in their last 4 kept Hotter Than Hell out of the top 5. I was one of those picking it as my top 7. So I picked it as my 7th favorite song. So I didn't pick it in the top 5. And I wrongly predicted that it would be picked as the second favorite track. I was sure that Hotter Than Hell was going to score higher than it did.
I thought it was going to be the number 1 track, and I had it slotted as number 1 per the panel. I chose it as number 6.
Mm-hmm. So me and you're kind of picking very similar in a lot of ways. All right, so now we're inside the top 5, and the separation in points starts to come, but it don't really come for a couple more spots. We're still kind of in the big middle here, and so coming in at number 5 is Coming Home. Coming Home scored 262 points. Even though only 2 panelists, Tony P. and Rick R., picked it as their favorite track, there was enough support from the other panelists picking this track as their second and third favorite to get it into the top 5. I picked this as my 4th favorite track on the album, but I didn't expect this one to get picked as high as it did. I actually predicted Coming Home at 8.
I predicted Coming Home at 8 as well with the panel. I chose it as number 2. I've always loved this song. Unplugged even brought it to life even more. Such a delicious little riff in it, and just a great Paul Stanley rock song.
That's true, and it really does come to life on the Unplugged. I think Coming Home for me, I read somebody talked about one of the things they mentioned. I can't remember which panelist it was, and I know I didn't make the note, so I'm sorry I can't give you credit. But somebody talked about the album being tracked weird, and this album really is tracked weird. It's got a weird tracking to it. Coming Home does not seem like it should be the next to the last song on the album.
Yeah, it
doesn't.
The end of the record.
Yeah, maybe it should be the first song on the second side, like opening up the B side. I could see this being a good B side opener.
Because it's a great opening song. I mean, Unplugged even proved that. So, yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So, starting to get down and dirty. But still, we're still kind of in that big middle because there is only a 4-point separation between Coming Home and the song above it at number 4. Eking past Coming Home into the number 4 spot is Let Me Go Rock and Roll. Let Me Go Rock and Roll scored 266 points with the panelists. Now, support for the top 4 really began to get strong as 5 panelists picked this as their favorite track. Jeff Wyatt, Luis Fernando, Jerry Ivan 73, John B. Good, and John O. But 28 other panelists picked this as one of their top 5 favorite songs on the album. I picked it as my 3rd favorite track. I did not expect it to do as well. So I wrongly predicted the panel would pick this as their 7th favorite track overall. But I predicted this as I picked this as my 3rd and predicted it at 7.
I predicted it at 4 and I chose it at 4.
Okay. This is one of those that was kind of weird because looking at the scores, there was a lot in the middle, like I was saying, but there was a lot of people that was passionate about it, liking it, and there was a lot of people they picked it as their last track. So, all right. So this is where it gets good. top three. And top three, the top three always seems to get good. That's where the support really comes into. And so, of course, we've got three left to go. If you've been playing along at home, you know what songs we haven't named yet. So once we do 3 and 2, then you know what 1 is. But so coming in at number 3 with 301 points, breaking the 300, is Got to Choose. Even though only 3 panelists, Emily Grazinio, Jay Lee, and R.C. Campbell, chose this as their favorite song, support from the rest of the panel was strong, with 33 of the panel picking it in their top 5. I was one of those who picked it lower than my top 5. I picked Got to Choose as my 6th favorite song on the album, and again, I wrongly predicted that it would be picked 6th overall by the panel. So I chose it as 6. I picked it as 6. The panel chose it at 3.
I predicted that the panel would choose it at 3. I chose it at 5. It's one of those songs I can take or leave.
Mm-hmm. All right. So now we get down to it. The final 2. It's coming in at 2 with 333 votes, jumping 32 points above the 3rd favorite track, is Watching You. Watching You firmly secured the 2nd favorite position, with 7 of the panelists picking it as their favorite track. Rocker L0270, Tom Durst, Deuce, Perpetual Art, Two Dads Review, Oddball 748, and one other. I was one of those panelists. I picked this as my 2nd favorite track overall, and I predicted it would be the panel's 3rd favorite track on the album. And who was that other person that picked it as their favorite?
I picked it as my all-time favorite. I love Watching You. That riff is just so delicious. That song's got so much attitude to it. And I knew making my list that I would be completely off with the panel on what they chose for number 1. Mm-hmm. So obviously, seeing my number 1 choice is Watching You, you know where.
Yeah.
If you've been following along.
Yeah, if you've been following along. I love the attitude that the way this song has that sass, and it very well could have been on the first album. It belongs. It actually sounds like it should have been on the first album, but I like it having that darkness it brings to the 2nd album. That's one thing I do like about Harder Than Hell, is it's one of the darker Kiss albums. But I love the first line, "Limping as you do, and I'm watching you." I mean, limping as you do. I mean, and I was like, limping. So I love that line. Gene came up with the great lines. And this is when Kiss was not kid friendly. So it was when they were great. All right. So by process of elimination, we know that everybody else voted, coming in at a whopping 397 points. At number 1 is Parasite. It was a commanding lead. It was 64 points higher than the 2nd favorite track. It's an impressive 20 members picked this as their favorite track, including myself. The others are Tim Bream, Tom Giglicotti, Michael Young, Sean McKelland, LDO, Zandin Black, Jim Smith, Chad Casey, George Doley, Keith Nedu, Jay Reed, Super Kiss 1200, Demetrius K, Anthem Incorporated, Darklight, Jay Reiner, Scotty Skay, MD Smith Comics, and Jay Spence Metal. I picked this as my favorite track on the album, and I successfully picked this would be the panel's favorite track.
I thought it would be the panel's number 2 track. It's my number 8. I've just never been into this song. I know everyone hates me right now, but I've never been into this song. I do love the riff. It's a distinct riff song for Kiss. I don't think they had really done any, up until this they only had 1 record, but really before or after they never really had a riff song like this. And for that I like it, but I just never was into the song.
I love the riff of this song. I like how the verse, how the the rhythm of the guitar of the verse follows what they're singing, and Peter just does those rolls and those fills all through the verse, and then when it
Hmm.
after it comes out of the chorus, the second time, and they kind of do that little break, and they go into that dun 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 dun
Oh
dun dun
yeah.
dun dun,
Hmm.
dun, and then that little interlude that leads into Ace's solo. I like it on this album, but I like the live version better.
Hmm.
Uh, but uh,
Hmm.
but the panel has
What? And
spoken. So
yeah, and I think that's kind of my deal with every track on this record. I know you mentioned you don't like the sound. Any track from this record that's on a live is so much better.
mhm,
And I
fully
think
agree.
yeah, and I think I kind of the older I get, I side with you that I don't really care for the sound of this record either. It's kind of like their only stoner rock record,
Mhm,
but much better on a live.
mhm. I agree. I agree. All right. So script giveaway, and then we're going to talk about we have another giveaway. So script giveaway for the first one, we have a list of 5 people here, 5 users, and I'm going to have Rick. Rick is going to do the choosing, and the way he's going to choose is Rick is just going to randomly. I've not told him what he's going to do to choose. I'm telling him right now. So Rick, I want you just randomly pick a number in your head between 1 and 5.
Okay, done.
Okay, what's that number?
Going with good old Peter Chris number 3.
Number 3. Okay. So the contest entries we had, I had on the list at number 3 was George Doley. So George Doley, you are the winner. Uh, the contest entries was at number 1 was Dylan Tucker. And I'm sorry, I got grandkids here. They're not being murdered. They are being cared for. They are being cared for. They're actually playing. Uh, number 1 was Dylan Tucker. Number 2 was John B. Good. 3 was George Doley. 4 was Emily Grazinio. And 5 was AJ Zetro, 1975. So, George, congratulations. Uh, Send me an email. If you look on my YouTube, you will see an email address, and you can send me an email and send me your address. You can send me a post office box and address or whatever, and I'm going to assign that script. I'm going to send it to Mr. Rick in an envelope, and he's going to sign it, and then I'm going to have an envelope in there already with your address on it and stamps on it for him to drop it in the mail to you to get it to you. So we appreciate you entering that contest. And so we have another contest. Me and Rick talked about it ahead of time. Since we had such a large participation for this video, 49 members, 48 or 47 if you don't count me and Rick, we thought it'd be cool to do another script giveaway. We've got some other things we're thinking about for videos in the future, but we thought it'd be cool to do another script video for this one as well. So when you're commenting down in the comments of this video, this is very important. I'm not going to chase you down to put you in the contest. We're all adults, or most of us, and some of us don't always act like adults. But anyway, that's beside the point. Um, Down in the comments, if you want to be entered in the contest to win the script for the Hotter Than Hell video that we just did, you'll basically get all of this. You'll get all the numbers and you'll get everything that I've typed up, all 14 pages of it. And on the last page, there's a little bit of room there's some room here, and there's some room here. And you never know what me and Rick might do. We might write little notes throughout it. Once I send it to him, once I do what I do, and once I send it to him, it's up to him what he does. You never know what little tidbit, you never know. You never know if we might stick something special in addition to just to say thank you for being a viewer and thank you for watching our videos and liking our pages. You never know what we may do. So that's the thing. You never know what we're going to do. I guarantee you, AJ, if you'd have won it, we would have not put $5 in there. We wouldn't have put $5 in. So Rick might have, but I wasn't going to. So anyway, guys, if you want in on the contest, get down in the comments and say that you want to be in the contest. Also, what do you think about what we chose as a panel? What do you think about that list? I'm gonna, you know, I'd like to hear that. I'd like to hear the people that was in on the panel. I'd like to hear what you thought. Did things play out the way you thought they did? And did it, work the way you wanted it to work? And before you even ask, yes, we're going to keep going. We're going to go on to Dress to Kill next. It's somewhere behind me. It's off camera. Going to Dress to Kill next. Now, typically what I do is when the videos come out, usually the next day or so, there'll be another on my social media. If you want to comment on my social media, if you want to comment on either the YouTube, or the best place to do it is the YouTube community page, or if you choose to, if you have Facebook, I know Rick doesn't. If you have Facebook, you can post it on the In My Head Facebook page. You can post it on my Instagram page, and you can post it on Twitter too. All those links are down in the description there. You can also comment it on Patreon too. This video actually hit Patreon a day early than it hit YouTube. So if you can get in on my Patreon channel for as little as $1 a month, and you get little early things, and me and Rick does some behind the scenes discussions and stuff like that, and I do behind the scenes videos, and sometimes just talking, driving down the road, ranting, or showing around my studio, pulling out some of my books and stuff. And that's all exclusive stuff over on Patreon for Patreon subscribers. And like I said, you can do it for $1 a month, and it helps to support buying stuff and doing things. And anyway, and paying this electricity bill for it and everything. But anyway, that's enough of that. So, Rick, overall, what do you think about how everything played out on Harder Than Hell?
I knew it was going to be hard because, especially with the first one, you kind of have a greatest hits record.
Mm-hmm.
So you know the songs everyone's going to love. Mm-hmm. This one was kind of, and I think as we move forward, it's going to get, you're going to see a lot of people's like personal favorites come out instead of like global favorites. Mm-hmm. That'll be cool.
Do you think that's what happened on this album with songs that we really expected to chart higher, like the song Harder Than Hell, and then songs that's maybe we didn't think should have charted as high as they did? Think that's what happened there? People's personal favorites really started coming out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think people have a song they love, and it's theirs for a reason, and it doesn't really have to do with the song being played live or anything like that. So I think the further we get into this, it's going to be real diverse.
Right. All right. Well, speaking of further we get into it, Dress to Kill will be up next. It will be the next panel video, and we hope that if you've been in on this panel, we hope you come back for the next one, and we hope we get new. I would love to see the panel get bigger and bigger. It starts to become very hellacious doing the math and doing the numbers, but I did it in an afternoon. I sat down and I just tallied everything up, and I cross-checked myself. I made sure each and every vote counted, made sure that I didn't get anything wrong, and it's because I want everybody's vote to be heard equally. So that's all we got. That's all we got for this one. Rick, I appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time to do this.
No problem. It's fun.
Yeah, we had a good time, and we'll continue to do it. Dress to Kill will be up next. Be looking out for that post. Like I said, usually a day or so after these premiere and come out. Usually be checking my social media for when the next panel video. I'm usually going to give you guys about a week and to get your voices in, and then me and Rick will try to shoot a video for it the following week once the things have been tallied. So it's putting one out about every 2 weeks. Anyway, that's all I've got. Mr. Rick, you go ahead and talk about your channel really quick for somebody that's might not heard you yet.
It's all for you, Demon, on YouTube, celebrating the fun of being a Kiss fan.
Guys, gals, if you've not seen this guy's videos yet, you're missing out. And follow him on Instagram, because if you just follow Mr. Rick, Mr. Demon on YouTube, you're missing out on so much other stuff. I love his Instagram. I love his Instagram. His Instagram, he's got a series going on right now called the Collecting Days of November or something like that, and he has posted something, a part of his collection every day for the month of November so far. But yeah, check him out on his social media. He's on Twitter. He's on Instagram. Not on the Fook of Bases.
No.
And he is right here on YouTube as well. Check him out. Give him a like. Give him a subscription. Give him a comment. Make him feel loved because he's my buddy. So that's all I've got. That's him. That's Rick. I'm Brant. And we'll see you in the next panel video. Thanks for watching, guys and gals.